Hi there, and welcome to This Day in History for July 8th. July 8th is the 189th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 190th in leap years, with 176 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is umlaut. The term umlaut may refer to a particular diacritical mark, these two little dots right here in this case, that you might see placed over a vowel, usually indicating a specific pronunciation or a pronunciation change common in Germanic languages. The umlaut may also be used to indicate a plural form. For example, in German, changing a vowel to its umlaut form turns some singular nouns into plurals, as in these examples. Haus becomes Heise, Baum becomes Beime. In the case of the German word for brother, the pronunciation is the same, but the spelling indicates either one brother or more than one brother, brothers. As we see, the umlaut may also change the pronunciation of these words. In other cases, the umlaut might alter a word's meaning in other ways, which, research-wise, becomes quite the rabbit hole of its own. The case where the pronunciation and spelling of a singular form of word changes in its vowel pronunciation is also an example of umlaut, even if the two little dots are not used. For example, man, men, goose, geese, mouse, mice, louse, lice, woman, women, foot, feet, tooth, teeth. You get the picture. There are lots of these. And there are also cases of umlaut, even though no dots are present. The spelling and pronunciation has changed, along with a slight change in meaning. In these cases, it has more to do with the vowel sounds, as evidenced in the spelling. Another example of umlaut without the two little dots may be seen in such words as Etna, aesthetic, hemophilia, or orthopedic, where the second vowel E is the one that gets pronounced rather than the A, or as an A sound. Etna, aesthetic, hemophilia, orthopedic, examples of umlaut affecting how the word is pronounced without the little dots. Aesthetic, hemophilia, and orthopedic may also be spelled without that preceding A, but if you ever happen to see them this way, it's not wrong. It's just umlaut. Some brands and bands use umlauts in their names for stylistic reasons, such as the heavy metal bands Blue Oyster Cult, Motley Crue, Motorhead, and the parody bands Spinal Tap and Green Jelly. This usage is often called metal umlaut or rock dots and is purely decorative. Rock dots. Sometimes you'll see a vowel with the two little dots over it, indicating that the vowel is not a silent vowel, but is intended to be pronounced separately, like naive, Noel, or Bronte. Over time, we come to know that they're pronounced naive, not knave, Noel rather than Noel, or Bronte, not Bront. In those cases, those two little dots are called diaresis rather than umlauts, but that's an entire discussion unto itself. The word umlaut comes to us from German, meaning change of sound, and while those two little dots have been used since as long ago as the 1300s, the word umlaut's first known use is in the 1800s. Umlaut. The word umlaut was suggested by YouTube viewer Jeff Gavin. Thanks, Jeff. We'll slip some of those other funny little marks into the Word of the Day segment as we go along. I do want to mention that as I record this particular episode, we are a few weeks out on requests now for Word of the Day. But if you have a word you'd like us to examine in this Word of the Day segment, drop it in the comments. We'll get to it in the queue. Take a look at it when it comes around. And with that, this is the birthday of Italian Baroque painter Artemisia Gentileschi, born July 8, 1593. It's unusual to find a female creative, especially from this time period, but her dad was a painter, and so she had early exposure to making art. As I understand it, her mother died when she was about 12, and she began to show more interest in her father's career path of painting. Her father followed the style of Caravaggio, whose work employs dramatic use of lighting, and, like father, like daughter, Artemisia painted that way too. Her earliest surviving work is a painting called Susanna and the Elders, which was done when she was 17. She was an amazing artist, lived an interesting life. The exact date of her death is unclear, but it was most likely in the mid-1650s, which would have her living into her early 60s. Artemisia Gentileschi. This is the birthday of American chemist and pharmacist John Pemberton, born July 8, 1831. He's the inventor of a temperance drink that he intended to sell as a patent medicine. Initially, he was aiming for a morphine-free alternative painkiller and came up with Coca-Cola. Unfortunately, his failing health and looming bankruptcy prompted Mr. Pemberton to sell most of his rights to Coca-Cola shortly before his death in 1888. He was 57 years old when he died. Now I have playlists of episodes for this day in history, single subjects called How About That, words of the day, and a playlist called There's a Word for That. And I'll leave links to those playlists for you. Today's song is Shadow Dancing by Andy Gibb, number 1 on July 8, 1978. Written by all 4 of the Gibb brothers, Barry, Robin, Maurice, and Andy, Shadow Dancing is a disco song. It was released in April 1978 as the lead single from Andy's second studio album of the same name. It hit number 1 in the Billboard Hot 100 in June of that year and held the spot for 7 weeks, which is where we find it today, July 8th. Shadow Dancing by Andy Gibb, link in the description. Alrighty, thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlist that contains these videos. I'll put a link to that in the description. That description lives on YouTube, so for other platforms, I'll include a link to my blog page that's called No Really. You can also find me on Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. All those links in that description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Alrighty, back to work. I think we got it this time.